Senegal has just qualified for the round of 16 of the FIFA 2022 World Cup after beating Ecuador 2-1. It was a very exciting game. It was the game I was watching. I wasn't really interested in Netherlands versus Qatar, but still, congrats to Netherlands for getting the win and topping the group. And as for Ecuador against Senegal, a lot of questions will have to be asked about Gustavo Alfaro and how he approached this game, because what I noticed in the first half was that Ecuador looked like they wanted to speculate a bit, They wanted to try and see how the game played out, how the result would go, how Senegal wanted to set up in the game. And it really came back to bite them because they looked clueless on the field. They didn't know what they were doing. They were just waiting at the back. And Senegal, who needed this win to qualify, went for that result since minute one and really caught Ecuador by surprise in a few instances. They got 2 1-on-1s on the first few minutes that they should have scored, but they ended up missing the target. So that should have been the wake-up call for Ecuador, that they weren't doing things right. They shouldn't be waiting to see how the game would go, and they should start pressing forward instead of just waiting in the back, because you're not going to hold out for 90 minutes. You cannot play for a draw for 90 minutes. And that came back to bite them after Piero Hincapié brings down Ismail Assar on the box. It was a bit of a doubtful penalty, honestly. It was a hard one to call, but I think overall the decision was correct to award that penalty, and Ismail Assar himself scored that penalty to put Senegal on the lead. And it was just at the end of first half, so at the second half we saw a very different game, basically an opposite game, because now Ecuador was the one that needed the result and Senegal was the one that was sitting back, chilling, knowing that the result was in their favor. But Ecuador didn't seem as clinical as Senegal did in the first half. Ecuador was having a lot of trouble trying to generate dangerous plays around Senegal's box. But in the end, pushing that hard for that equalizer paid their dividends, because on a set piece from a corner, Moises Caicedo, the man from Brighton, scores a tap-in after a deflection after the corner. And yeah, there was celebration everywhere. Ecuador were back at it. The draw was enough for them to qualify to the round of 16, knowing what was going on between Netherlands and Qatar. And in the next minute, they commit a foul on the side of the box, a completely unnecessary foul. They get distracted, they don't mark properly, and after a deflection on the cross, Koulibaly finds himself with the ball alone, crosses it in to the other post, and it's 1-2 to Senegal. And from that point onwards, you know that Ecuador were mentally checked out of the game. They tried everything they could. They pushed for that second equalizer that would bring them back to life, but it wasn't enough. Basically, in the end, I feel like experience played a huge role in this game. Senegal obviously are a very condecorated team. They've qualified for the 2018 World Cup in Russia. They won the African Cup of Nations last year. They are a team that knows about winning. They know about these situations, about being behind in a game, about needing a result to advance, and they got it. Ecuador, on the other hand, are one of the youngest teams in the tournament, and clearly that lack of experience in the big stage costed them this game. They didn't know how to approach the game at the start, and once they were down, they didn't know how to respond. A very disappointing finish for Ecuador, who had put up a great World Cup so far with a very convincing win over Qatar, and then a very good draw against the Netherlands. That's a game they should have won. They are probably kicking themselves about that one already. But yeah, they couldn't deliver in the last match day where they needed a draw to advance, but you cannot hold on for a draw for 90 minutes. So basically, Senegal wanted it more than them, and they had the experience to go get that result, and in the end they got it. So congrats to Senegal for moving to the round of 16. Congratulations to Netherlands for topping the group, and commiserations to Ecuador, who put up a great World Cup, but in the end it wasn't enough to advance from the group. But they still have a very young generation, a very young squad, and if they keep on with this project, if they stay with Gustavo Alfaro, I believe that they can still qualify for the 2026 World Cup and probably make some noise there, because all their players are basically young and rising. So yeah, it will be interesting to see how they do in the future, and it will be interesting to see how Netherlands and Senegal do in the next round. I'm still waiting for the Group B games, so we're gonna see how that turns out.